let's have a look at visual literacy. Okay, so the thing with visual literacy is that it's visual. That is important. You have to say what you see. Okay, I actually don't have visual literacy questions with me, but I do have some cartoons with me. Okay, so if we're just looking at this cartoon, we can't read what it says. It's like tiny. You can see if you can see it on your screen, but it's a little blurred and a little tiny. But that's not what's important here. First thing we do is, what do we see? All right, we see Garfield. Now let's just look at this first frame. Why is all of these things looks like it's been chewed? Because Garfield's chewing it. So what do you think that this whole cartoon is probably going to be about? It's probably going to be about food because he's eating stuff. Now, let's look at his facial expression. So they can ask something like, now I can't think of how they'd phrase it. Something like, which visual techniques, or how do you know that Garfield is happy? Okay, I just want to make it a bit bigger because I'm not sure, so that we can just zoom in on the faces, because that is what we care about now. So how do we know that Garfield is happy? You cannot say he looks happy. You have to be very specific and tell me what you see. He's smiling. His cheeks are puffed up, or his cheeks are big. His eyes are big. And that's how I know he's happy. So I literally just look at Garfield. They want happy stuff. I look at Garfield and describe what I see. So in the next one, the next frame here, so I've got a couple of things here. He's walking. How do I know he's walking? He's in the middle of a step with his feet, but also these lines here are movement lines so that you can see he's walking that way. What would you say his facial expression is there? So his mouth is closed, his eyes are half, so he's probably, I don't know, he looks lazy, or he looks not bothered by anything that's going on around him. Maybe he's upset. His arms are straight down by his side. And then in the next part, what have we got here? So we can say, which visual techniques links with the word wow there? Okay, so what do we see? His shoulders are up. His hands are up. His smile is huge. His cheeks, we can see his cheeks again. His eyes are big. And then we've got those little movement lines. He's probably going something like this. So how do you describe that? So you can say he is excited. So for each one, look at the picture and think, what can I see? And what is his mood? So can I put an emotion to this? So maybe you should pause quickly and look at each picture and see what emotion you will put to each one of these pictures, so that you can practice. Let me make it slightly bigger, although I think it's probably fine for you. My screen is very small, so I think you can probably see. All right, so quickly have a look at that for me. You can pause. Okay, so now you either didn't pause or you're unpaused. All right, so let's continue. How do I know? Let's look at this frame quickly first. How do I know that the cookie smells good? Because of this line, the steamy line coming off it, tells us that it's smelling good. And then another thing, these speech bubbles, it's like a bubble. This is a volkie. It's like a cloud with like bubbles. Means that he is thinking and not saying it out loud. Or, as we'll see later, he is dreaming. Okay, so what can we say about his facial expression here? Okay, you can also say excited. I think pretty much he's excited everywhere. He's excited. I know that he's looking to the left or to the, whatever side, because he's got this movement line, that white line there. And he's excited again. But you can see that he's slightly less excited than he was for the cookie. Probably because he's getting a little full already. So then what we can also see here, I don't know if you can see it so well, but biggest here is in bold letters. So it's anything that's bold or big or something emphasizes something. Okay, now the next one, he looks back again. But look at those cheeks. Now it's like bigger because he's got food in his mouth still. And he still looks excited. So it says, and the world's biggest loaf of garlic bread. And we know that it smells good because there's a line coming off it again. And you can also look at, see the size of Garfield and the size of the pizza, like, or the cookie. He's like almost the same size as the cookie. And that loaf of garlic bread is definitely bigger than him. And then in the last one here, the last row, it's like, and the world's biggest bowl of 5-alarm chili. But look at those eyes of his now. What do those eyes tell you? That he's kind of, I'd say he looks almost like a zombie. Like he wants to eat more, but he really can't take it. And look at all these, here he's clean. Here he's clean. Look at all these crumbs. Is that crumbs? Yeah, crumbs coming off him. And all the crumbs coming off here. And he doesn't look that excited anymore. He's still got food in his cheeks and his eyes kind of looks like he's a zombie. But then he eats it all and he gives a big burp. So how do I know that the burp is loud? Because his mouth is very big. Burp is written in capital letters and it is bold and it has 3 exclamation marks. So you see what I'm doing? I'm explaining exactly what I'm seeing. Look at the text. It's not so much about reading, it's about looking and describing what you see. How do we know Garfield is very full? Look here by his stomach. There's little lines. Sort of like his stomach is going to explode like this. And because he's burping, and he's got his hand on his stomach and leaning back. And then this Garfield here is waking up. So we can see here the thought bubbles, and this whole thing was in a bubble. We can also see that all of these frames that we had before, look at the color. The color, there's purple, and there's purple, and there's purple, and there's purple. And there's purple, and there's purple. But now when he wakes up, all the colors are changing. So this is the real world. So we know these were all part of the dream because the colors are different. How do we know that he was sleeping? Okay, he looks very sleepy. He looks like he just woke up. His eyes are barely open. He's lying in his bed under the blanket. That bubble, instead of having a thought like that cloud thing, it looks like the cloud burst. And that Z there tells us that he's probably snoring. Okay, now in the next one, what is this guy's emotion and expression? He also looks like he just woke up and doesn't have, like, he doesn't really care. Hasn't shaved yet. He is still in his pajamas. His hair is deurmekaar, so his hair is messy. And his eyes are barely open. So there's a couple of emotions that you can link to that. I'll say not amused. He's not amused. He's still drowsy, half asleep. And you can see this bubble, this speech bubble looks different from the rest because he's actually saying something. And in the this one here, it's an actual sound. You can even maybe say maybe this sound is what woke him up. Him burping in his dream woke him up in real life. And Garfield here, he is also not amused. You can see that he's not feeling well. Maybe he's also still sleeping, half asleep but not feeling well. And how do we know he's asking for something? He's got his hand out and there's movement lines around his hand. So he's probably going, hey, give me, give me. And he's asking for the world's biggest antacid. Another thing that they can also ask with these kind of thing is to explain the humor. Now, if they explain the humor, don't say why, it's not about, it wasn't funny. There is no humor. Humor is not about, haha, that was hilarious. Humor is about playing with words. Or playing with ideas. So here, the humor is that what he ate in his dream is affecting him while he's awake. Which is not necessarily absolutely hilarious, but it is what humor is. Humor is playing with ideas and playing with words. All right, let's look at another one here. All right, so before I even read, I'm just looking at the bold words. Wrong. That's emphasized. My river. And then this is a little sheep yelling at some, turtles. And the turtles have something around their neck. So maybe we should do the same again. Pause quickly and then see what you can see. And then you can listen to me discussing it. Okay, so you either paused, unpaused, or you didn't. Okay, now what can we tell about this? It looks like a sheep, doesn't it? We can tell that it's angry. So forget the text. I'm not reading now. We're not reading anything. I'm just looking to see what I can see. It looks angry or annoyed because he's pointing at them and he's going like this, my thing. So he's angry with them, or he's angry. His mouth is open. His eyebrows, look at his eyebrows, is straight. Yeah, that's what I can see. Now let's see what he's saying. You jokers claim I threw that plastic six-pack ring in the ocean, but you're wrong. Okay. So they have plastic rings around their necks, the sea turtles, and this sheep thing is annoyed because they're blaming him, but he says it wasn't him. What can you say about their facial expressions? They kind of look, I don't know, like, I can't think of the emotion that would go with that, but they're sort of like quietly listening, as if they want to say, yeah, right. And now he's more angry. He says, I throw all my trash into the town river. So I throw all my trash. He's like, how dare you say it was me? I do my things. And he's still pointing at himself. He's pointing at the river. His eyes are also pointing at the river where he's looking. Big mouth. And his eyebrows are like this. I can't think of a better word, an easier word, except furrowed. He's frowning. There we go. He's frowning. And look at these two. To me, it looks like they're hanging their heads. They go like, okay. And then in this line, so they're hanging their heads. So we can say it's despair, or they're sad, or disbelief, or something like that. And then in the next one, this guy says, support local, woohoo! But we've got the sheepish thing, and the two turtles are looking at him surprised. So the turtles are looking around, and this one's eyes are slightly, biggish. If they ask something like that, and this is another trick, if they ask something like that, and you can't tell, you're like, I don't know what this character normally looks like. I can't tell anything from his eyes. Then literally just describe his eyes. So if you look at this guy, his eyes are round. His hands look like they're behind his back. So his mouth is closed. So literally just describe, if you really don't know, just describe what you see. So he also has a bottle. So it's basically pollution. So the whole thing is about the pollution. And this guy says support local, because he says he throws his trash into the river, not into the ocean. And he thinks he's defending himself, but actually it goes from the river to the ocean. And then the duck saying support local, woo, is basically being sarcastic as well. Sarcasms, puns, they love it in comics. He's saying that you're supporting your local river by throwing the things in there, but eventually it ends up in the sea anyway. Okay. Now, let's see how long I've been talking first. Oh, I think we can go a little longer. I always say that. Okay, let's just look at here, an advertisement. Now I'm going to have to make it a bit smaller again so that it fits in. So this whole paper is about the chili thing. Okay, so the one thing that is important for you to know is propaganda. What is propaganda? Propaganda, I just want to see what other notes there was. Oh no, that was mostly for the Afrikaans that it specifically mentioned propaganda. Let me just double check quickly. Yeah. Anyway, so with advertisements, again, what do you see? Not what do they say. You see big font chili cook-off. You see, what colors is it? It's reddish and orange because that's the color of chili. Oh, it's a guy on a horse. It's like a rodeo kind of thing. They say here live music, chili tasting, and then they name a couple of other things that there's the date, there's the time. They also sometimes ask things about how can you contact them. So on this one, we're going to have to zoom in a lot right at the bottom to actually see that. Oopsie, if I can. Yeah, right at the bottom there, we can find them on Facebook. There's their web address, and I'm not sure what that is. I can't see. Okay, so here's an email address as well. So we're trying to see who is our target market. So who is this advertisement for? It is very important when you're looking at your target market that it is very specific. Don't just say everyone. So we look at this one. Who do you think would be interested? People who like chili. What else? What do they have here? People who like live music, cold beer, whiskey. They've got a horse. Why do they've got a horse? It's like a cowboy vibe. There's a horse and music, so it's sort of like a western kind of thing that's going on here. So people who like chilies, live music, cold beer, and whiskey. And then this whole cowboy thing is reinforced by, instead of tasting, they say tastin'. Not listening, listening. So they drop the G in all of these. So this is the apostrophe to show that the G has been left out. So we call that contraction. Just for the language section, contraction shows that the G has been left out. And that kind of words is also makes you think of Wild West kind of thing, like an American rodeo kind of thing. So what kind of words do they use here to persuade you? So we can say this word here, free, although it's quite tiny, I'd say. Free to open to the public. And if you can even read that free, I'm really struggle reading weird fonts. At least you've got a reader. So open to the public means everyone can come. Featuring. Featuring, so it's like we also have this live music. They've got exclamation marks here. Here, right tiny at the bottom, it says samples from 2 p.m. until they're gone. So there's free samples. There's limited space, which means, if I don't go, then maybe it'll be out by the time I get there. So that's all kind of things that makes me want to go. Like, I'm going to miss out if I don't. It's free anyway. And it's limited. So if I don't go now, then I might miss out. I don't have time to think about this. I got to get there. Okay, and then, yeah, I can't really think of much else with this specific one. Like I said, I don't have questions with, these are just, in these papers, it was language questions based on visual literacy. Okay, but it's very important that you go with what do you see and how do the words of advertisements, why do they use that word instead of another word? And how are they trying to almost manipulate you into actually coming, to make your decision for you that you've got to be there? All right, that's it for this one.